Who's Edmund Dantes? And who's my father? And my mother? My brother? My friend? Who is you? And me? Who's all of us?
Hey, yo, what the hell's going on, friends? Welcome back to the thrilling conclusion of this 3-week spectacle for Part 3, Episode 33, for Vertebrae33 and myself, Shawn the Butcher. This is In Madness Pod. What's going on?
What's happening, Shawn? I was about to go shave my head and check out my shadow gallery. But I'm excited for the thrilling conclusion to this. But what are we, Shawn? You always say it. I love when you say it. We are
the premier podcast, In Madness Pod.
I love it. That's fantastic. And we're celebrating Vertebrae33 on our 33rd episode.
How do you feel? How do you feel having a whole
Vendetta
episode dedicated to your shtick?
Yeah. Well, I don't like you calling it a shtick, Shawn. This is my
your creation,
my birth given name here, Vertebrae. But no, it's crazy. And I prefer to disappear again. You know, you dragged me onto YouTube way back when. Although it was my idea to make a podcast. It was my idea to make a podcast.
It was the most shocking text message I ever received.
But yeah, it's kind of cool. I can't wait until we can figure out a way to celebrate all things Shawn the Butcher on an episode, maybe. But
we just discussed our future schedule, and during my birthday, we're going to be smack dab in the middle of our next movie. So we can consider that my birthday gift.
Yeah, I just get nervous. I know there's a list of like certain movies that Shawn's like, we got to do this movie, and then I just quietly like don't react to it when he says.
I want to do The Watchmen. I want to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I want to do. There's a bunch of movies I want to do.
You know what I was thinking, and we'll jump into the movie, but I was thinking one time we should try to do like a poll online and see if people like we pick 3 movies and let them kind of
let the people decide.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do one.
That.
We'll try it once, maybe.
Maybe we'll try that after our next movie.
And it'd be like in school when the multiple choice is like obvious, like it's like your choices are like aliens, fried green tomatoes, or Gone with the Wind. And it's like, okay, I guess
we're covering Gone with the Wind. It won.
You know what? That would be what would happen. People would totally vote that in, and we'd have to cover.
We get spammed and screwed and lose to our own bet. Make sure you follow us on the socials if you want to screw around with us at In Madness Pod. If you want to vote for any future polls we are putting out, you can email us inmadnesspod@gmail.com. This show is available on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, give us the 5-star reviews. Follow the In Madness Spotify playlist, which will broaden your horizons as a human being. Spread the madness. Tell everyone you know about this show. And if you want to represent for your boys, shout outs to everybody. All these dudes and bands we're giving shirts to are rocking our In Madness shirt, whether they're in their practice space or in their music videos. Shout outs to Kaposi from Lost Becomes for rocking his Milking of the Alpaca shirt, and my man Charlie from the band Rule of Thumb for rocking his Tentacle Eyeball shirt. We have posted videos and pictures of those on the socials. If you want a shirt as well, go to inmadness.com. We recently upgraded some sizes, so now you can get like a 2X and a 3X and I didn't set that up, but yeah, something like that. All available in madness.com.
3X. Oh, I cut you off on the thing there. It's a 2X and a 3X of the eyeball, the black eyeball shirt. So you can order that. And it'll come that one won't directly come from us because that's a print on demand. So don't be bummed out if it doesn't include any extra goodies.
Tender love and care, yeah, a little TLC with each package, yeah.
Right, but I can't keep going to the post office because I got to mail out all these masks, these cloaks and masks. I got something going on. So,
are you equally as talented as our friend V from Vendetta?
I don't think so, man. He folded all those cloaks too. Did he give him wigs? No, we didn't give him wigs. He just gave him masks.
What movie are we doing, Vertebrae? For anyone who doesn't know,
we're doing Charlotte's Web.
Close enough.
V for Vendetta.
Thank
from
you if
2005.
if you have joined us for any of our previous 2 episodes or any of our previous movie episodes or any of our previous 0.5 episodes. It is a pleasure to do this show every week with Vertebrae33 and to have you listening and also joining along. Allow me to recap what happened over the past 2 episodes. We got our hero V, his accomplice Evie. V wants to blow up Parliament on November 5th. While the date is approaching, he is also methodically killing everyone involved with Lark Hill Psychiatric Hospital, which is where V escaped from, badly burned, but almost superhuman from all the tests being conducted on him. His body is damaged, so he wears a hat, cape, and a Guy Fawkes mask. Detective Finch is on the case trying to find out what happened at Lark Hill that has V after everybody. But High Chancellor Sutler, our villain, tells Finch he had better not look into the past and instead find V, who they have labeled a terrorist. But Detective Finch is not so sure. As a matter of fact, he's beginning to believe that Sutler is the one responsible for all the deaths that occurred from a disease that spread years ago, killing thousands. Evie has escaped captivity from V and has been staying at her boss Dietrich's house. He's our late night David Letterman-like talk show host, but he just made fun of Chancellor Sutler on his show, so Sutler's goons have kicked down his door, black bagged his ass, never to be seen again. Evie is caught, interrogated, tortured, but has survived reading a letter she found in her cell from a fellow prisoner, Valerie. I think her name was Valerie. Evie grows attached to this note and this lady's touching story and finds a new hope for herself. During interrogation, she is told to give up V's identity or die. She chooses to die. She is told, "You have no fear. You are completely free." The person talking to her, interrogating her, walks away, leaves the door open. Evie is dumbfounded and goes to look outside the room. This is where we left you last week on a new episode of In Madness Pod.
And what happens, Shawn? What happens? Get us there. Here we go.
Which, my friends, finally, after 3 long weeks, brings me to my
milking of the alpacas moment.
Blew my mind when I first saw it
Yes.
in movie theaters. I was like,
Agreed.
what?
Yeah.
Evie sees a guard, but it ain't a guard. It's a dummy in a guard's uniform. Evie is confused. So was I in theaters. I was like, what the hell is going on? She opens the door and it's V's shadow gallery. Bah, bah, bah. Evie is devastated. Out walks V. He says, "Hello, Evie." She says, "It was you." He says, "Yes." She says, "That wasn't real." He tells her Dietrich is dead. They found the Quran in his house and had him executed. V says, "Fortunately, I got to you before they did." Evie says, "You did this to me. You cut my hair, tortured me. Why?" V says, "You wanted to live without fear. I wish there was an easier way. I know you may never forgive me, but nor will you understand how hard it was for me. Every day I saw in myself everything you see now. Every day I wanted to end it, but each time you refused to give in, I knew I couldn't." She tells him he's sick, he's evil. He tells her she could have ended it, she could have given in, but she didn't. He says, "Why?" She says, "I hate you." He says at first he thought it was hate too. Hate was all he knew. It built his world, imprisoned him, taught him how to eat, how to drink, how to breathe. He thought he'd die with all the hate in his veins, but then something happened. It happened to me the same way it's happening to you. Evie is pissed. V says he created a lie because she believed it. She found something true about herself. He tells her what she felt in that cell had nothing to do with him. She says, "I can't feel anything anymore." He tells her not to run from it. She's been running from it all her life. She collapses on the floor. He says, "This may be the most important moment of your life. Commit to it. They took your parents from you. They took your brother from you. They put you in a cell and took everything they could except your life. You believe that was all that was there, didn't you? The only thing you had left was your life, but it wasn't. You found something else in that cell. You found something that mattered more to you than life. When they threatened to kill you, unless you gave them what you wanted, unless you gave them what they wanted. You told them you'd rather die. You faced your death. You were calm. You were still. Try to feel now how you felt then. V takes her to the roof. It's raining out. She walks into the rain. She says, God is in the rain. The water drenches her. Shots of her walking out into the rain are intertwined with shots of V walking out of the Lark Hill fire. She's looking over London, crying in the rain, raising her arms in the air the same way V did at Lark Hill. Lightning strikes. Evie is free.
You know, okay, so I don't agree with any of this. Like this guy, he's become an expert on how she should feel by shaving her head and locking her up. It's mean. Leads to the big reveal is, you know, our milking of the alpacas moment for sure. It's shocking. The rain stuff, yeah, you know, it's a little much.
It's a little Shawshank Redemption-y.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing when you go back and the person shaving her head, you see like the hand on the clippers, and it's not burnt up hand.
Uh-oh. So maybe he had a hidden accomplice we don't know about. Because
Maybe.
Also when he goes throw her behind the shed and kill her, that's one person. But then I feel like another person comes in and tries to reason with her, like, just tell them what they want to know. And she's like, no, I'd rather die behind the shed. And I feel like that was a second person. So I feel like there's an accomplice we don't know about.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, unless he's changing masks and he's leaving the room and quickly changing into another mask and another outfit. But the logistics on this are weird, suspect. Like she never went into that room before where the prison, you know, didn't wander in there. I guess maybe he had that door locked or something when she was there.
It's like Wayne Manor.
Yeah, but it's a fun reveal, and then we're getting our love story, and he's helped her along. The only part of it that kind of I don't like is I would rather her kind of find her way without him guiding her in that case, like having her go out and find her way in the world and have to react to something where she realizes he's right rather than sort of being forced to, you know, see it his way. And I think that's just a little bit of a holdover left from the graphic novel, but they do the movie differently. But it's just, I don't know. I think she would have been a little bit stronger of a character if she didn't need him to shave her head and lock her in the cell to get where she needed to go. Because she's already been punished enough. So if you're not punished that much in life, and then you can't find yourself. But yeah, this is one of the parts where viewing it again for the podcast, like the rain stuff and everything, it just didn't hit the same as it did the first time you saw it. But yeah, that's a mind blowing. We get a lot of big reveals in this movie, but that's kind of the most mind blowing one of all, is that he was doing, and like, how long was she there that he was abusing her? And he's got rats in his place. Like, that's messed up too, right? There was a rat.
Yeah, maybe it's just the one rat. Maybe it's his pet rat, and he's like, all right, it's your turn to go, you know, act out my plan.
Maybe that's his rat, Vincent. Let's give him a name that begins with a V, Vincent. And he's and maybe he's helping pack all the orders too, the masks and everything.
Yeah.
Deliver the note to the little hole. But a heartbreaking story that they're telling. And Valerie, that's the dead giveaway when you watch it again, that her name begins with V, and Valerie. That this is his hoax, but the story isn't. And that's a heartbreaking story. And, you know, that part makes me so angry that, you know, people just can't live their lives and be happy. And I think sometimes it's a shame, but when humans find other people to have found their happiness, it kind of bothers them, right? They become successful, and it bothers them that other people are happy because they're not happy. So, but that kind of runs a little opposed to V forcing her into a cell and forcing her to find her own happiness in some ways too. So that's certainly, you know, they're all over the place with this, and back and forth between this fascism and anarchy and structure, because ultimately he provided structure to her in the cell to get her to view things the way he views them. So that's kind of a little similar to what they're doing in society, like view it the way we're doing. We got all the structure, we got all the safety, so he recreates that a little bit for his own, but he needed assistance, Shawn. He can't pack all those orders alone.
I agree.
Yeah, and Vincent, he's running around, but he's not quick enough,
Maybe his assistant is another letter of the alphabet as their name.
Maybe
it's Zorro. V puts a song on his jukebox. Evie approaches to tell him she's leaving. He tells her there's 872 songs in here. It's kind of like the In Madness playlist. He says he's listened to them all, but he's never danced to any of them. Evie says she can't stay here. He tells her she won't find any more locked doors here. She hands him Valerie's note from the prison. She says she was going to keep it, but there's no reason since it was all fake and he wrote the letter. He says he didn't. He asks to show Evie something before she goes. He takes her to a shrine he's built for Valerie, full of candles, roses, pictures of her, and her movie poster. Evie is shocked to find out Valerie was real. She asks V if he knew her. He says no, she wrote the letter just before she died. I delivered it to you as it had been delivered to me. She says, then that really happened. He says yes. She says, you were in the cell next to her. That's what this is all about. You're getting back at them for what they did to her and to you. V says, what was done to me created me. Every action will create an equal and opposite reaction. What was done to me was monstrous. And Evie says, and they created a monster. V looks down ashamed. He asks if she knows where she'll go. She says no. Evie goes to kiss him, but he stops and says thank you and goodbye. V says, if I had one wish, I would wish to see you again, if only once before the 5th. She says okay and leaves.
Yeah, and V, the only way he knows to have personal growth is to go through what he went through, right? So he imprisoned her, and that's how he unfortunately was created in this form. And then he's so upset that she's leaving. He's so heartbroken, but I don't know what time what part of his life they imprisoned him, but not the best way to meet a girl. To imprison, he shaved her head, trapped her in the house, and then he's so upset when she's leaving. Come on, let's stick around, let's dance. But maybe he was a young kid when they gathered him up, and he really doesn't have any sort of that's all he knows is being imprisoned and then kind of finding yourself and living that life. Some of the songs in the jukebox, there's 4 of them I had listed. There's a ton, but Cry Me a River by Julie London, which is what is playing when they're there. I Found a Reason by Cat Power. The Girl from Ipanema by Stan Getz, and Corcovado by Quiet Nights of Quiet Stars. That's Stan Getz as well. So, and some of these kind of feature, there's some music that plays at the end and then credits too. But I wonder, I feel like this was a pure moment. If this movie was made in 1999, I feel like he would have hit a button
and Limp Bizkit would have come on.
or like Bomb Track, and then he by Rage Against the Machine, and then he would have just started training. Like there'd be a training montage.
System of a Down,
yeah. Do you remember in Electro when she started training and they put on that Evanescence song and she's hitting the bags of sand with the swords? I feel like we would have got, if this was like a 1999 movie, that we're gonna get that training, because she leaves and he's so upset, and then he puts on his anger track and just starts tearing stuff up in his fight. He probably has a fight room. He's got the X-Men kind of room going on where he can train. But yeah, this is the part too. This doesn't make so much sense. She can just fold back into society. So in the beginning, he was keeping her away because everyone's going to catch her, but all she did was shave her head, and now nobody knows who she is.
She does piss V off. He removes his mask. He breaks a mirror. His face is still in the shadows. He begins hysterically crying. Perhaps what she said about them creating a monster has gotten to him.
Mm-hmm.
Cut the chance with Sutler and his goons. One of them is telling him the red report you have in front of you has been checked by several demolition specialists. It concludes the most logical delivery system for the terrorists to use would be an airborne attack. Another report has been filed suggesting a train. Sutler wants to know who filed the report. It was Detective Finch. Sutler is pissed. Do you have any evidence to support this conclusion? Finch says just a feeling. Sutler says, if I'm sure of anything, Inspector, is that this government will not survive if it is to be subject to your feelings. Sutler wants to make a clear message to the people of the country. Must be in every newspaper, every radio, seen on every TV, throughout the internet. Tell the country we stand on the edge of oblivion. Every man, woman, and child should understand how close we are to chaos. I want everyone to remember why they need us. See the news spreading Sutler's propaganda. Price of water going up, disease spreading, airborne pathogens. Everybody is watching TV just hella annoyed, like me at the gym watching.
Yeah, they're hoarding toilet paper. They got to be hoarding toilet paper. It's happening, Shawn, for sure. Yeah, and we can all relate to this. I mean, you get 1 inch of snow in Long Island, and there's not any bread or milk left in the store. But Shawn doesn't like milk, and neither do I. So we would pass right by there, and we don't have to worry about it. It's fine. We'll eat the bread.
I got potato chips and Pop-Tarts for days. Detective Finch and his partner are back at their office. His partner has some info. 3 men, covert intel, black baggers all under Creedy. The day after St. Mary's outbreak, one dude kills himself, another dies in a fire, and one goes missing. Finch feels like he remembers one of the men's names. He finds an old email he received saying, I understand you're looking for me. If so, that must mean you're ready for the truth. Email me back and I'll send contact details. And Finch goes to meet the man. A man wearing a hat and sunglasses and a fake beard arrives. I believe this is V in another uniform.
Yeah, we see later on, we see the mask when we're kind of revealing stuff. But I'm confused by this part. Maybe as you go through it, it'll make more sense to me. But I'm a little confused. Help us out.
He begins telling Finch and his partner the story. The story begins with a young up-and-coming politician, deeply religious man, member of the Conservative Party, completely single-minded, no regard for political process. We see Sutler commanding his army, very Adolf Hitler-like. The more power he gains, the more aggressive his supporters become. Eventually, his party launches a special project in the name of national security. We see Lark Hill Detention Center. We see who I believe is Valerie's dead body being wheeled out. He says at first it's believed to be a search for biological weapons, and it's pursued without regard to its cost. The true goal of this project is power. We see a bunch of bodies in cages with black bags over their heads. Prothero is walking around in his uniform. The man says the project ended violently. We see explosions, doctors flying all over the place. He says the efforts of those involved are not in vain, for a new ability to wage war is born from the blood of one of the victims. I'm assuming this is V's blood. Imagine a virus, the most terrifying virus you can, and then imagine that you and you alone have the cure. But if your ultimate goal is power, how best to use such a weapon?
So we're both wrong. Because when you read that now it like clicked in place. We're like, oh, what were they doing? Were they testing him to be a super weapon? No, they were trying to find somebody that wouldn't get sick from the virus,
so they could take there and
so they
manufacture a cure.
I apologize to the previous episodes. If you listened, you'd be yelling at us through
thing.
We learned. But yeah. So and then if they have the only cure, then you're going to be relying on the government to be safe again for the only cure that you have for the virus. So
all sounds eerily familiar and similar to things that have recently happened.
Yeah. So this is they've set it all up for them not to win. For them to win, they just didn't bank on this dude who was burnt from head to toe,
losing his mind,
having a reaction to this stuff, and actually making him stronger. And I assume, like in some ways, maybe gives him a little bit of like super strength and powers too.
100%. At this point in our story, along comes a spider. We see Creedy. He says a man seemingly without a conscience. He suggests that their target shouldn't be an enemy of the country, but the country itself. 3 targets are chosen to maximize the attack. St. Mary's. We see a bunch of kids coming out of school. A tube station, which is London, in this the subway in London, tube, and a water treatment plant. 3 waters. Several hundred children die within the first few weeks. We see all the news reports of the virus spreading and the water being contaminated. The words epidemic are emblazoned across the front of the newspaper. St. Mary's virus kills 178, 200 killed in the subway. Terrorist strike with biological weapon. He says fueled by media fear and panic spread quick, dividing the country. The true goal comes into view. The death toll is rising. Riots are happening. The man says before the St. Mary's crisis, no one would have predicted the results of the election that year. No one. We see the cover of the newspaper. Sutler is now in charge. Not long after the election, a miracle. Pills are being manufactured. He says some believed it was the work of God himself, but it was a pharmaceutical company controlled by certain party members that made them all obscenely rich. Again, this sounds eerily familiar.
Yeah, and I would say that there's certainly lots of, and we never get political on this podcast. But I'll just say that, plans are probably always in place to have things go the way they would want them to go, whoever that they is. That they may be, in this case, both sides. It could just be everybody that's in power that's willing to make money. I don't think that in this film they're concerned about any actual beliefs. They're just concerned about cashing in, and everybody's getting rich. And I think they've been able to kind of bring people into that and have them say, well, this structure will make you safe. Listen, we all, Shawn, in this situation, people turn to structure, right? I straighten my office when, you can get stressed out and maybe go straighten some books or organize a little bit. It might make you feel a little bit better. That's a type of structure that they're running to. So if they create something so horrific that there's only one place to go to get what you need to get your fix, you're going to go there. And they show a lot of these people who were just, in front of the television and being sucked in by all of it and just kind of wanting to live their lives with their family and hoping they'll be safe and being like, okay, we'll trudge along. And it takes V to come along to pull everybody out of that. But yeah, I mean, it's rigged. The house always wins for sure.
A year later, several extremists are tried, found guilty, executed, while a memorial is built for the victims. The end result, the true genius of the plan, was fear. It became the ultimate tool of the government. Through it, our politicians ultimately appointed to the newly created position of High Chancellor. The rest, as they say, is history. Detective Finch asks if he can prove any of this. The man says, "Why do you think I'm still alive?" Finch wants to take him into protective custody. The man says, "I'm sure you would, but if you want that recording, you'll do what I tell you to do. Put Creedy under 24-hour surveillance. When I feel he can't pick his nose without you knowing, I'll contact you again." Finch asks why he didn't come forward before. What were you waiting for? And he says, "I was waiting for you, Inspector. I needed you."
And Shawn, since this is the 33rd episode, part 3, I get to make another Star Wars reference. And I will say that this is exactly how Emperor Palpatine rose to power and get the vote of no confidence, and he gets to take over. He's creating the war on both sides and with the clones, and that this is what happens, and people get scared, and he's, don't worry, I can help you. So this has happened over and over again in the world. We could probably make a massive list of the times that this has happened and is currently happening as well.
I'm trying to think of where it happened in The Simpsons. It hasn't come to me yet, but when it does, I'll be sure to throw it in. We see evil Creedy watering his flowers, seemingly very happy, until the lights go out. V approaches from behind, putting a dagger to his throat. He whispers, "Sutler can no longer trust you, can he, Mr. Creedy? We both know why. After I destroy Parliament, his only chance will be to offer them someone else, some other piece of meat. And who will that be? You, Mr. Creedy. A man as smart as you has probably considered this. A man as smart as you probably has a plan. That plan is the reason Sutler no longer trusts you. It's the reason why you're being watched right now, why there are eyes and ears in every room in this house, a tap on every phone." Creedy says it's bullshit, and V says a man as smart as you knows otherwise. Creedy asks what he wants. V says, I want Sutler. Creedy says, what do I get out of the deal? V says, you get me. V says, if you accept, put an X on your front door. Creedy says, why should I trust you? V puts his dagger over his mouth and says, it's the only way you're ever gonna stop me. The true plot twist. Creedy is down to give up Sutler. Detective Finch and his partner are doing research on the man they met. Finch gets a call from captain of the 137th Ward. He says they found the man he was looking for. He saw the report and ran it through some John Does and found a dental match for him. The man was a floater. A fisherman picked him up. No ID, never solved. Till now, the man has been dead for 20 years. The detectives are in shock because that's who they thought they were just talking to. Detective Finch is pissed. He kicks his trash can. He says, that son of a bitch spoon-fed me that bullshit and I ate it up. And now he wants to go find him.
Yeah, this is the part I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by this part as well.
Why did V need to pretend to be that guy to get his
yeah.
attention? He could have just reached out to him because they thought that guy was V. So just reach out to them as V because he's around everywhere and give him the same information. Like, why did it have to come from that guy that's already dead? Like, it could have come from him directly. That part, I think, is an extra. I think they get super excited to have all these big reveals, and we start to get that reveal, and then we see a mask that's hanging up that, oh my God, that was actually him. But it's like we all knew that was him anyway. So I didn't get why it made him so mad because he didn't solve that bit of the crime, I guess. I don't know.
It was a lot of runaround for not much.
Yeah, I agree. This part, I think they could have skimmed through much quicker.
Sutler's talking to his goons. He says, every day, gentlemen, that brings us closer to November. Every day that man remains free is one more failure. 340 days, 347 days, 347 failures. Creedy says, we do not have enough men. Sutler says, we are being buried beneath the avalanche of your inadequacies, Mr. Creedy. Creedy is pissed. We see V's gloved hand placing down a domino piece. See a large shipment of British FedEx boxes. They're being delivered all over the town. Every box contains a Guy Fawkes mask and V's outfit. We see more dominoes being placed. Finch and his partner are freaking out, trying to figure out how many boxes went out. 700,000 at least. Kids are on the street wearing the outfit.
Insane. So Shawn and I often struggle to get time to record this podcast. And this guy successfully shipped out 700. He packaged up and shipped out. So maybe he has a company that does it, packages it and ships it for him, but he still has to order them. And then he's got time to be placing dominoes down. And when we get to it, but these dominoes were placed by a professional domino assembler, and they used about 22,000 dominoes, and it took them 200 hours to set it up. So if it took them, and it was 4 people, and it took 200 hours to set this up, so we would safely assume it takes V 800 hours to set this up. Man, I don't know. Maybe this is a flashback, and he's been setting them up all along, and then we only see him click it down at that moment. But what an industrious fella, getting all the masks shipped, the dominoes. Where's he getting the money for this? I guess he steals the money from the government. Maybe that would have been cool if it was like that. It was using like government money to get out to fund his thing. Do you remember? Was it Superman 3 with Richard Pryor? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they go through the paychecks, and there's half a penny, and he figures out that they could divert that half a penny from everybody's check to this account, and he gets loaded and shows
literally, yeah, that's exactly what they did in the movie Office Space. And in the movie Office Space, he goes, yeah, like in Superman 3.
Yeah. The same thing. Maybe that's what V's doing. He's playing with the account so he can get money, because I'm sure those masks are going to cost money. Those are fantastic masks, by the way, too. They're not cheap. They're really nice, and they're all painted and the cloaks and everything. Yeah. He's very industrious. He's got to have some helpers.
Sutler says, I want anyone caught with one of those masks arrested. We see a man robbing a store wearing the mask. Finch's partner says the whole city's gone mad. Finch says this is exactly what he wants. Anarchy in the UK. Chaos. Sutler says he's holding Mr. Creedy personally responsible for this situation. More dominoes are being placed. We see Creedy puts an X on his door. He has had enough. Finch tells his partner he went to Lark Hill last night. We see him walking around this destroyed building. Now, this is the only part of the comic I really remember because I believe he like trips on hallucinogens and then goes to Lark Hill, and a lot of has many epiphanies while he's hallucinating on drugs at Lark Hill.
Yeah, he takes LSD so he can try to get into the brain of V. So yeah, and it's big trippy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's different. Obviously, we said it before from the comic, but there's just this wild LSD trip by Finch that happens, which really in this movie would really removes us from the character that we've already seen. That would have been really out of nowhere for this character that we see on film.
He says, it was strange when I was there. I suddenly had this feeling everything was connected. We see Guy Fawkes, we see Dietrich, Evie, Valerie, her lover, V, the explosion. Finch says, I felt like I could see the whole thing. Probably because he was hallucinating on LSD. We see another domino being placed. Finch says, one long chain of events that stretch all the way back before Lark Hill. I felt like I could see everything that had happened and everything that was going to happen. It was like a perfect pattern laid out in front of me, and I realized that we were all part of it and all trapped by it. His partner says, so you know what's going to happen? Finch says, no, it was just a feeling, but I can guess. With so much chaos, someone will do something stupid, and when they do, things will turn nasty. We see a man with a gun shoot a little kid who's spray painting a poster, and a bunch of people angrily approaching him in the street. The man holding up his fingerman badge, people are approaching him, and the dead child. He pulls out his gun on the people and they attack him. Finch says, and then Sutler will be forced to do the only thing he knows how to do. We see a bunch of army taking the streets. Finch says at that point, all V needs to do is keep his word. And then we see V's gloved hand in a flicky finger motion, and in front of a domino, he flicks it, and down falls this beautiful artistic work of millions of dominoes all falling in the shape of the V symbol. It is badass. Yeah, I can't believe they said 200 hours. That is insane. It's like the Crow when he lights up the crow thing and the fire, and it just creeps all along and creates the fire thing. This V symbol of dominoes is nasty.
Yeah, it's not millions, it's 22,000.
22,000.
But yes, and he's creating his own symbol for himself, I guess. I mean, the Crow at least was showing it to other people on the docks over there, but he was also very industrious because he had to like create that very clear symbol on there. But what a really cool visual moment with the red they're red on one side and black on the other, the dominoes, and then it comes down, and then when it stops, there's one domino standing, and he kind of like picks it up. Like I'm not sure what that is supposed to mean when he looks at it, but
so I think it's Evie. I think Evie is the one. She is the one that will change everything. She is that's why he leaves it for her at the end. We'll get there. But yeah, all the dominoes fall, but they fall from the left and they fall from the right. And at the very end, they both fall on one final domino, and V walks over to it and picks it up and walks away. It's November 4th. V's in his room, getting ready, mentally prepping, sitting quietly in his chair. He finds Evie playing a song out of his jukebox. He says he didn't think she'd come. She said she would. Tells her she looks well. Doesn't seem like her hair has grown much in the past year unless she keeps shaving it herself.
I think she likes it because she says something about not being recognized by somebody. So yeah, I think that she knows. So
V asks how she avoids being detected. She says a fake ID works better than a Guy Fawkes mask. He says every time he heard a siren, he worried about her. She says she worried about herself for a while, but one day she was at a market. A friend, someone she'd worked with, got in line behind her. She was so nervous that she dropped her money. Her friend picked it up, handed it to her, looked her right in the eyes, and did not recognize her. She tells V, whatever you did to me worked better than I'd have imagined. He tells her he has a gift for her. Perhaps before he gives it to her, he wants to ask her something. He asks for a dance. She says, now, on the eve of your revolution. He says, a revolution without dancing is a revolution not worth having. They agree and they dance. Sutler's screaming at his goons. He says, I'm going to make this situation perfectly clear to these people. The security of this nation depends on complete and total compliance. Any protester, instigator, agitator will be made example of. His goons say there is a contingency that has not been addressed. What happens if the terrorist succeeds? Sutler says he will not. His goons say if he does. Sutler says if he does and something happens to that building, the only thing that'll change, the only difference it'll make is tomorrow morning, instead of a newspaper, I will be reading Mr. Creedy's resignation. Creedy is still pissed. Evie's dancing with V, telling him he has everyone very scared. Sutler's going to make a public statement tonight. He tells her it's almost time. She says the masks were a great idea. It was strange to see your face everywhere. Evie tells him he's one of the most important things that has ever happened to her, and she knows almost nothing about him. She doesn't know where he was born or his parents were, if he has brothers or sisters, doesn't know what he looks like under the mask. She goes to remove the mask. He stops her, says there is a face beneath this mask, but it is not mine. Tells her there's not much time. He has something he has to give to her. He takes Evie underground. She says she thought they closed it down. He says they did. It took about 10 years to clear the tracks and lay a bit of my own. He has rebuilt the train station and the train track.
Yeah, he built all that. Nobody caught on. Maybe each day he's building a little more of the train and putting a couple more dominoes down as he packages up these masks.
He's got a lot going on. He's got a very busy schedule.
I mean, I guess over 10 years, maybe it's possible.
We see a train loaded with dynamite, packed to the gills. It's pretty awesome. Evie says these tracks lead to Parliament. V says yes. She says then it's really going to happen, isn't it? He says only if you want it to. This is my gift to you. Everything I have, my home, my books, my gallery, this train, I'm leaving it to you to do with what you will. She says, is this another trick? He says, no more tricks, no more lies, only truth. Truth is you made me understand that I was wrong. The choice to pull this lever is not mine to make, because this world that I'm a part of, that I help shape, will end tonight. Tomorrow, a different world will begin that different people will shape, and this choice belongs to them. The time has come for me to meet my maker and to repay him in kind for all that he's done. Evie begs him not to. She says, let it go. She says, we could leave here together. He says, no, you were right about what I am. I have no tree waiting for me. All I want, all I deserve is at the end of that tunnel. Evie says that's not true and kisses the guy Fawkes mask on the lips. V says, I can't, and walks off into the tunnel.
But she doesn't follow him into the tunnel. She just stands there like, no, don't go.
Yeah, holding out a hand. Sutler's on TV telling people our country that we stand for and all that we hold dear faces a grave and terrible threat. This violent and unparalleled assault to our security will not go undefended or unpunished. Our enemy is an insidious one seeking to divide us and destroy the very foundation of our great nation. While he's talking, we see Creedy with a bunch of officers. They meet up with V. He says, I've kept my side of the bargain if you kept yours. Creedy says, bring him down. Bunch of men come marching down the steps with a man with a black bag on his head. He's thrown to his knees. They rip the bag off his head, and there he is, High Chancellor Sutler. He says he has a farewell gift for him, for all the things you've done, for all the things you might have done, for the only thing you have left. He puts a rose in his suit. V says, goodbye, Chancellor. V says, Mr. Creedy. A gun cocks. Sutler's eyes go wide, looking down on him. Creedy says, disgusting. And kablow, pulls the trigger. Sutler falls to the floor dead with a gunshot in his head. Creedy looks at V, says, now that's done with. It's time to have a look at your face. Take off your mask. V says no. Creedy signals one of his guards to remove it, but V immediately kills them. Creedy says, you won't cry like Sutler. You're not afraid of death. You're like me. V responds with, the only thing you and I have in common is we're both about to die. Creedy says, how do you imagine that's going to happen? V says, with my hands around your neck. Bullshit, Creedy says. What are you going to do? We have guns. V says, no, you have bullets, in the hope that when your guns are empty, I'm no longer standing, because if I am, you'll all be dead before you've reloaded. Everyone points their guns. Much like the Crow, all these dudes are ready to unload every bullet into V. They all fire. He's down on one knee. He takes one long breath and rises. says, my turn, and in very stylistic fashion kills every single one of these fingermen as they're attempting to reload their weapons, just stabbing and slashing and slicing every single one of them. This is all happening in slow motion. You see all these guys slowly reloading their weapon as V is just slice, killing everybody. He approaches.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and he trails the knives, kind of trail off. You see like the trails behind the knives as they're going along. And this is, Shawn, they all shot him like a million times and nobody shot at his head.
It's like Batman.
Not one person.
Yeah.
It didn't even hit the mask. Maybe we could have had one hit the mask and it goes off, like the
Like a
mask is made
ricochet?
of something
Yeah.
that's bulletproof or something. So yeah, but this is kind of a Matrix-y type moment in this film.
V approaches Creedy, who pulls out his gun. He keeps shooting, and again, like the crow, he's saying, why won't you just die? V says, beneath the mask there is more than flesh. Beneath this mask there is an idea, and ideas are bulletproof. He wraps his hands around Creedy's neck and kills him. He then removes a large piece of armor he had covering his chest, but he's still shot up really bad. He leans against the subway wall and walks, and he's leaving a large streak of blood across the wall.
Yeah, all the stuff he stole, he couldn't buy. He couldn't steal like a good bulletproof vest. It's armor. I think it's from the outfit that he was practicing on, right? Like the knight.
Yeah, I think that was the setup for
armor.
That.
Yeah. So then that's what he decided to wear. But I think he realizes it's over for him. So sadly, he'll never have a life that he'd want with Evie anyway. But maybe he can inspire her and other people.
Evie's sitting on a bench staring at this train loaded with explosives, and in walks V. He's all sorts of messed up. Evie sees him and runs to him. He falls into her arms. He's bleeding. He says, I'm finished and glad of it. He says, for 20 years, I wanted only this day. Nothing else existed until I saw you. Everything changed. I fell in love with you like I had no longer believed I could. She tells him she doesn't want him to die. He says, that's the most beautiful thing you could have ever given me. And he dies. The guards surrounding Parliament say they have enemies approaching, and filling the streets are all the people of London wearing the V uniform. They begin approaching the armed men. Evie covers V's body with roses inside of the train of explosives. She sees the one domino he has left behind for her. I'm guessing the domino is her, for her to be the one change that changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
She's standing there. Detective Finch approaches from behind with his gun drawn and says, stop right there, Evie Hammond. Looks over and sees that V is dead. He says, so it's over. And she says, almost. She grabs the train lever. He says, stop, get your hand off that. And she says, no. People in V's uniform are approaching the armed men. Things are getting very tense. You feel like someone at any moment is about to pull the trigger and get shot and start a riot.
But in this case, Shawn, there's so many. They do this cool shots from overhead, and they're all moving in sync, and it's just way too many people. It's the protesters or whatever they are revolutionaries are way outnumbering anyone in charge by like a lot, and they're headed that way quickly.
Finch asks Evie why she's doing this. She says, because he was right. This country needs more than a building right now. It needs hope. Finch puts down his gun. So do the armed guards. And everyone in the V uniform walks right through the blockade of armed guards. We get the bird's eye view and see the streets flooded with all these people wearing V's uniform marching through the streets. The clock strikes midnight. It's November 5th. Evie pulls the lever and walks off the train. The doors close. The train takes off. Evie says, do you like music, Mr. Finch? Music begins blasting through the streets of London once again. Every one of the people in the Guy Fawkes mask is staring at Parliament. V's dead body and all the dynamite are heading right towards it. It makes contact and kablooey, Parliament explodes.
And Shawn, when we see all these people with the masks on, it's very much looks like a lot of ways like the Anthrax Among the Living cover.
Yeah.
With all the people. Yep. We have to add an Anthrax song to the In Madness Spotify playlist.
I'll let you pick an Anthrax song, whichever one you want.
Oh, Sean's showing his true colors on that one. But anyway,
100%.
it looks a lot like very reminiscent of that Among the Living cover, which is a fantastic cover.
As it's exploding, music is playing, fireworks are going off. Watching all of this happen, Detective Finch asks Evie, who was V? She says, he was Edmond Dantes. He was my father and my mother, my brother, my friend. He was you and me. He was all of us. Fireworks blast in the air. Everyone in the streets takes off their Guy Fawkes mask. We see people we've met previously in this movie, both living and deceased. We see citizens taking off their masks. Dietrich is there, takes off his mask. Valerie is there, takes off her mask. So does her lover. Evie says, no one will ever forget that night and what it meant for this country, but I will never forget the man and what he meant to me. We see the fireworks go off in the shape of a V. The end. Yeah, 3 episodes. Episode 33, part 3 for Vertebrae33 in Madness Pod. That's what the hell is up.
You know, it's funny. This movie's so involved, Shawn, and it seems long at parts and moves really fast at other parts. But Finch like gives up quickly. He's just like, don't do that. Oh, okay, do that. Let's go listen to some music. Like, because he's skeptical the whole time
The
of
whole
everything
time
anyway.
he is over it.
Yeah, but you know, I wonder how they would make if they remade this movie or did another, take off the comic, how they would do it now. Because it has a it's dark, but like I said in the beginning on the first episode, the look is a weird look. It's got a very surreal look at points, and then they start doing these slow down fight scene and everything. But yeah, we did it. We did our first 3-part episode. Right? This is the first one.
Would you believe me that I had 33 pages of notes?
I believe you. I don't know if anyone else will believe you, but I believe you.
I found it funny for our 33rd episode that I would have 33 pages of notes.
I think it's fantastic, and this was fun. We, thank you for people listening. And if you're not listening, I guess no thank you.
You got all your gnarly bits in? Did you get in everything you wanted to?
I did, and you know what? I didn't go crazy with them because there's a lot of stuff that you can dig into this movie, and I think we touched on kind of the heavy political overtones and stuff, and I thought that was enough for us to discuss in that way. But if there's anything you know about this movie that you want to send our way, I certainly want a list of all the items in the Shadow Gallery. Maybe you can name Shawn's office for him and my office. That would be great. And Shawn, what up? What were you going to say? Go ahead.
Do you have any vertebrae? Do you have any V for Vendetta like toys or like shirts or any of that? Because I'm looking around at my Shadow Gallery and I don't have any V for Vendetta.
I don't. I have it on vinyl and I have the graphic novel and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't have a mug. I would have used a mug in this episode if I had it, but I don't have it. But what are we doing next, Shawn?
So our idea for the next episode for our 0.5, it wasn't our idea. I think we got an email. It was probably from Tom Henderson. Shout out to Tom Henderson. In our mail sack, which we recently read on our most recent 0.5 after our A Quiet Place episodes. He was asking us what our favorite bad movies are, because we did a 0.5 about one of my favorite bad movies. I guess people would call it Godzilla vs. Megalon after we did our Godzilla -1 episode. And we got an email asking us what are some of our favorite bad movies. Now, trying to figure out what a bad movie is when I love it is difficult. I mean, I understand the concept, but I love all these movies, regardless of how bad some people may think they are. So I'm going to put together the best I can a list Vertebrae is going to do his best to put together a list. And if you hear this episode right now, and if you want to send us a list of your favorite bad movies, email us inmadnesspod@gmail.com or hit us on the socials at inmadnesspod. Make sure you follow our YouTube page, like, subscribe, comment, hit the 5-star reviews, follow the In Madness Spotify playlist, which Vertebrae is going to figure out what Anthrax song he wants to now add to it. Spread the madness, tell everybody you know about the show. And for your multi-sized In Madness shirts, you can go to inmadness.com. Thank you, anyone who has got a shirt or taken a picture with the shirt or sent us a picture wearing the shirt or has listened to this podcast or has told somebody about this podcast. It is very important that you help us make this thing grow so it can become the monster that it deserves to be. We love doing this show for you and that you listen, but we would love more people to be listening and to be tuning in and to be part of this conversation. This entire show is a conversation. It's not just me and Vertebrae33. You can email us. We will answer your questions. We will bring you in as part of the show. Shout outs to you for participating, for listening, and taking the time out of your day to rock with us here on In Madness Pod.
It's awesome. Absolutely. And you can find me Vertebrae33 on all social media, Vertebrae33.com. You can buy my shirts in Hot Topic, now in Spencer's as well. We're inching our way closer to New York Comic Con, where Shawn will be there one of the days to hang out. We will have In Madness shirts at the booth to buy in person if you like. We'll have a bunch of other goodies there as well. Got some special stuff planned for it. We appreciate anyone listening, and I am very excited for the movie that takes place after the 0.5.
It's a big one. It's a doozy. It's one we've been waiting to hit since we started the podcast. It is, I mean, I'm not going to start giving hints now, but it is very timely and very topical. That's all I'll say.
And I need all the time in the world to put in the research for that, and appreciate anyone listening, watching us on YouTube, hanging out with us. Please, you can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It'll move us up the charts a little so more people will find us and we can continue to grow this family together. And thanks a lot for, letting me have a 3-part episode on V for Vendetta.
I think our next movie will be a 3-part or 2, and perhaps every movie after that. Who the hell knows? Let us know on the socials. This is the thrilling conclusion, Part 3, Episode 33, for Vertebrae 33, with Shawn the Butcher, here on In Madness Pod.